The Internet, a vast interconnected network of information, communication, and commerce. But what happens when this digital marketplace becomes a breeding ground for terror? Craigslist, a platform designed to connect buyers and sellers, has become synonymous with chilling tales of deceit, danger, and disappearances. Tonight, we delve into the dark underbelly of online classifieds, exploring 3 true stories that will leave you questioning every click, every message, every deal. These are the Craigslist nightmares. Craigslist, a digital flea market, a place to find incredible deals on used furniture, electronics, even cars. But like any tool, it can be manipulated, twisted, and used for far more sinister purposes. This is the story of a Craigslist deal gone wrong, a chilling reminder that not everything is as it seems. Our story begins with Sarah, a young woman living in a bustling city, eager to furnish her new apartment on a budget. Scrolling through Craigslist, she stumbled upon a stunning antique vanity, the ornate carvings and polished wood, whispering tales of a bygone era. The price was unbelievably low, almost too good to be true. But the seller, a man who identified himself as Mr. Smith, assured Sarah it was a genuine antique, recently inherited and in need of a new home. Intrigued and unable to resist the allure of such a beautiful piece at such a bargain, Sarah arranged to meet Mr. Smith at a storage facility on the outskirts of town. Alarm bells chimed faintly in the back of her mind. A storage unit, but she quickly rationalized it away. The drive to the storage facility was uneventful, the hum of the engine a steady rhythm against the growing unease in Sarah's stomach. As she pulled up to the designated unit, a sense of foreboding washed over her. The storage facility was eerily deserted, the silence broken only by the distant hum of traffic from the highway. Mr. Smith greeted Sarah with a smile, a tall, lanky man with a disarmingly charming demeanor. He led her into the dimly lit storage unit, the air thick with the scent of dust and mildew. The antique vanity stood in the center, shrouded in a dusty sheet. With a flourish, Mr. Smith whisked away the sheet, revealing the vanity in all its glory. Sarah was captivated, her initial apprehension momentarily forgotten. It was even more beautiful than the pictures, the intricate carvings seeming to dance in the dim light. As she ran her fingers along the smooth surface, she felt a strange energy, a tingling sensation that sent shivers down her spine. "It's perfect," Sarah breathed, her voice echoing strangely in the confined space. "I'll take it." Mr. Smith's smile widened, a touch too wide, a touch too sharp. He quickly produced a bill of sale, his hand shaking slightly as he handed her a pen. As Sarah signed her name, her heart pounding in her chest, she noticed something odd about the pen. It was cold, unusually cold, like holding a piece of ice, and the ink, it wasn't drying. It remained wet, glistening on the paper as if alive. Suddenly the hair on the back of Sarah's neck stood on end. A wave of dizziness washed over her, the smell of dust and mildew replaced by the metallic tang of blood. She stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. Mr. Smith's charming facade crumbled, replaced by a look of cold, calculating malice. He lunged at Sarah, his hand reaching out, the glint of metal flashing in the dim light. Sarah screamed, a primal cry of terror that echoed through the empty storage unit. She twisted away from his grasp, her mind racing, her body flooded with adrenaline. The struggle was brief, chaotic, a blur of movement and sound. Sarah managed to break free, scrambling towards the door, her lungs burning, her legs screaming for release. She burst out of the storage unit and into the blinding sunlight, the taste of fear heavy in her mouth. She never saw Mr. Smith or the antique vanity again. Vanity. The search for the perfect home can be a daunting task, a delicate balance of location, price, and that intangible feeling of home. But for one young couple, their dream home would turn into a nightmare, their search for peace leading them straight into the heart of darkness. This is the story of a haunted house rental, a chilling tale of paranormal activity and the terrifying consequences of ignoring the warning signs. Mark and Emily, deeply in love and eager to start a new chapter, thought they had found the perfect place. Nestled on a quiet street, shaded by towering oak trees, the Victorian house exuded charm and character. The rent was surprisingly affordable, almost too good to be true. The landlord, Mrs. Hawthorne, seemed kind and welcoming, her frail appearance disarming any initial reservations. She explained that the house had been in her family for generations, but had stood empty since her husband's passing. Mark and Emily were smitten. The house was perfect, the rent a steal. They brushed aside the unusual chill in the air, attributing it to the house being vacant for so long. They ignored the strange noises at night, the creaking floorboards, the whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls. The first few weeks were idyllic. Mark and Emily busied themselves with unpacking, their laughter echoing through the empty rooms. But as the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere in the house began to shift, the air growing heavy with an unseen presence. It started subtly. Objects would move slightly, a glass left on the counter would be found on the floor, then the noises intensified. Footsteps echoed down the hallway at night, heavy and deliberate. Doors creaked open and slammed shut, seemingly of their own accord. Emily began to experience vivid nightmares, waking in a cold sweat, the feeling of unseen eyes watching her. Mark, initially skeptical, couldn't deny the growing sense of unease that permeated the house. They tried to rationalize the strange occurrences, blaming drafts, old pipes, settling foundations, but deep down a seed of doubt had been planted. A chilling suspicion that they were not alone. One evening, as Emily was preparing dinner, she felt a cold breath on her neck, a whisper of air that sent shivers down her spine. She turned around, her heart pounding in her chest, but there was no one there. The room was empty, the silence deafening. That's when she noticed it, a faint, sweet aroma like rotting flowers wafting from the attic door. Curiosity and trepidation warred within her as she slowly ascended the creaking stairs to the attic. The air grew colder with each step, the smell of decay intensifying. She reached the attic door, her hand trembling as she reached for the handle. It was locked. She rattled the handle, her heart pounding in her chest, but the door wouldn't budge. Suddenly she heard it again, the heavy footsteps, this time right outside the attic door. Someone or something was pacing back and forth just beyond the locked door. Terror gripped Emily's heart as she stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. She turned and fled, her bare feet pounding on the wooden stairs, the sound of the footsteps pursuing her. She burst into the kitchen, her breath ragged, her eyes wide with terror. Mark rushed to her side, his face etched with concern. Before she could speak, the lights flickered and died, plunging the house into darkness. Craigslist, with its vast reach and promise of anonymity, can be a dangerous place, a hunting ground for predators seeking vulnerable prey. This is the story of a kidnapper's pretense, a chilling tale of deception, manipulation, and the harrowing escape from unimaginable horror. It started with a simple job posting, an ad for a personal assistant, posted by a man who identified himself as Mr. Anderson. The pay was generous, the hours flexible, the requirements minimal. It seemed like the perfect opportunity for Jessica, a struggling college student desperate for a way to make ends meet. She responded to the ad, her heart filled with a mix of hope and apprehension. Mr. Anderson replied almost immediately, his emails polite, professional, and strangely alluring. He seemed eager to hire Jessica, brushing aside her lack of experience, assuring her that her enthusiasm and willingness to learn were all that mattered. They arranged to meet for an interview at a coffee shop near Jessica's campus. Mr. Anderson arrived precisely on time, his appearance as impeccable as his online persona. He was charming, charismatic, and disarmingly attentive, showering Jessica with compliments and promises of a bright future. Jessica, caught up in the moment, ignored the nagging voice in the back of her mind, the one that whispered warnings about being too trusting. She accepted the job offer without hesitation, her judgment clouded by desperation and Mr. Anderson's carefully crafted facade. The first few weeks passed without incident. Mr. Anderson assigned Jessica simple tasks, running errands, organizing files, answering emails. He treated her with respect and generosity, showering her with gifts and praise. Jessica, her initial apprehension long forgotten, found herself drawn to her enigmatic employer. One evening, Mr. Anderson asked Jessica to stay late, claiming he needed her help preparing for an important meeting the next day. Jessica, eager to please, readily agreed. As the hours ticked by, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over her. Jessica, her alarm bells finally sounding, politely declined, her hand instinctively moving towards her phone tucked away in her purse. That's when it happened. Mr. Anderson lunged at Jessica, his hand clamping down on her wrist, his eyes blazing with a terrifying intensity. "You're not leaving," he hissed, his voice a menacing growl. Terror surged through Jessica as she realized the true nature of her situation. Just when all hope seemed lost, Jessica remembered the self-defense class she had taken in college. She channeled her fear into adrenaline, her mind focusing on the techniques she had learned. With a burst of strength, she stomped on Mr. Anderson's foot, her elbow connecting with his ribs. He cried out in pain, his grip momentarily loosening. Jessica seized the opportunity, wriggling free and sprinting towards the door. She didn't stop running until she reached a crowded street, her lungs burning, her legs screaming for release. The internet can be a double-edged sword, connecting us to a world of possibilities while simultaneously exposing us to unimaginable dangers. These Craigslist nightmares serve as chilling reminders that behind the anonymity of the digital world, monsters lurk, their true intentions hidden behind carefully crafted facades. As we navigate the vast expanse of the internet, let us do so with caution, awareness, and a healthy dose of skepticism. For in the chilling depths of the digital world, not all who wander are lost, and not all who seek find what they're looking for. Sometimes they find themselves face to face with their worst nightmares.